Well, greetings everyone, and welcome once again to another Friday night edition of the Diamond Factory. And tonight we have a very special guest. Miss Deborah Borges is going to be our guest. We also have our usual commercial here. You can subscribe and donate to our YouTube channel. Uh, Cash App, $ JE King 3. We also broadcast on YouTube as well as Facebook Live and LinkedIn. So, without further ado, let's grab our guest here and bring her up in the queue. Good evening.
Good evening, James.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited. I am. I'm very excited.
Good. Well, I hope we didn't interrupt too much of your Friday evening.
Well, no, this is part of my life's work. So there's never interruption when it's an opportunity to teach or motivate or inspire.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Um, let's give our audience a little background, Ms. Borges, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am born and raised in Washington, D.C. I spent the majority of my life in Atlanta, Georgia. Currently, I have several professions actually. Attorney, minister, chaplain, teacher, track coach. I've done a lot of things. And I believe that God had me in all those arenas so that I can compile all those lessons and teachings and trainings in order to help other people. I think that's why we're here. Each one reach one, each one help one. One of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou is when you get, give, and when you learn, teach. And I really live by that idiom. And so that's at my core who I am and what I want to do in this stage of my life.
You mentioned you were born and raised in D.C., but you live in Atlanta. Uh, can you kind of give us a contrast of what life is like in those two cities growing up and leaning into your profession as you do?
Well, I look at both of them as home. I was born and raised in DC, and I went to high school, elementary, junior high, whatever, in Washington, DC. And I moved to Atlanta to go to Spelman College with the intent of returning home. And I never came back home until now. I just got back like 2 years ago. In the interim between Atlanta and coming back to DC, I lived in Las Vegas for 6 years where I taught high school English and was a track coach, successful track coach.
Oh, okay, all right. So,
There's two very distinct stages in my life. So when I think of DC, I think of the growth, my childhood. In fact, I have a book coming out called Wildflower that's about my childhood, and it's based on Washington, D.C. So my family and high school classmates, they're in that book, not by name, but you can't write a story without other people. So when I get to Atlanta, this is where I go to learn ministry. This is where I go to law school. This is where I go to seminary. This is where I learn to be a chaplain. So Atlanta was my classroom. Atlanta was my place of growth. Atlanta was my place of stability. Atlanta was my place of understanding who I am and getting a very serious understanding of who God is, who Jesus is, a spiritual awakening. And of course, I went to law school there. So then I began my profession there. In the interim between high school and doing those things in Atlanta, I joined the United States Marine Corps. So I'm also a former Marine. So I've had all these different roads. And I think coaching, speaking, training combines all of those roads and all those learning activities
Well,
and experiences.
I must say that during my tour of service, I've never seen a Marine that looks like you, but that's just, you know.
Thank you.
Can you give us a brief overview of your career and your current role with AIM?
I started AIM because I was often asking, my life has been very curious to me. So if it's curious to me, then I know it's curious to others. And so I was always wondering, like, why did I go down? People will get a job and they'll stay there 20, 30 years. And I was in very, very distinct professions throughout my entire life. And I was always asking, because you can't do all of them at the same time. But then God showed me that, yes, you can. These things that I learned in the courtroom, the things I learned about the judicial system, the things that I learned about God, the things I learned about spirituality, the things I learned in the classroom and in the public school system was massive and completely unexpected. And so then I have a heart to give and to be compassionate and to teach and to motivate and see people make it. So it's like, which one of these avenues do I stay in to amass that? And then I understood that if I am a coach, if I'm a trainer, if I'm a teacher, if I do workshops, if I come into businesses, if I do one-on-one coaching, then I can place, and then everything I had gone through and everything I had learned began to make sense. And so that's why I started AIM. AIM is basically who I am. The A in AIM is to agitate, is to arouse public consciousness into action, because nothing happens unless we do something. You can think about it, you can want it, you can desire it, but you have to go do it. Faith without works is dead. So you have to do some work. No matter how much faith you have, if you're not applying some works, then you're not getting ready to get to where you need to go. And then the I in AIM is to innovate. We can't continue to do the same exact things and expect for things to change. To innovate is to change by introducing something new in particular. These old ways are not working. Some of them are, many of them are not. And unless we start innovating, we can already see the trouble that we're in. We can already see the massive tragedy called the United States. We can see the massive tragedy called the United States school system. I am so disturbed by that till that's a whole nother story. And then motivate. I just do that naturally. And I can't even help it. Like, I'll see a stranger doing something and I'll start rooting them on without even thinking about it twice. And I think people have to be motivated into action. They have to be agitated. They have to be motivated. You have to introduce something new. So this is why I decided to name my business AIM. And it's really at the core of who I am. I am AIM. I do agitate. I do innovate and I do motivate.
Um, in today's modern politically correct, uh, or whatever you want to call it, vernacular, um, the word agitate. Did you find that some people were turned off by that particular word, even though you meant it in a positive manner?
Well, first of all, I learned a long time ago that I need to please God and not man. And if somebody wants to know what agitate means, they can ask. People automatically go to the negative. Agitate has to happen. If agitation didn't happen, we would still be in slavery. If agitation didn't happen, we would still not be educated as Black people and as women. If agitation didn't happen, there is no Barack Obama. If agitation doesn't happen, there is no movement. And I read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. And one of the stories in his autobiography is about this young Caucasian male who just had to meet Frederick Douglass and get before the great orator and learn from him. And he finally, after much effort, gets to meet Frederick Douglass. And he's going to sit down with him for 30 minutes, an hour. He has his notepad, he has his ink pen, and he is so excited to meet Frederick Douglass and have this long conversation with him. Well, he gets to Frederick Douglass, and Frederick Douglass looks at him and tells him he doesn't need to get comfortable because all he needs to tell him is one word, and that word was agitate. I knew I had to agitate when I saw that, and read that. And the young man looked at him and said, "That's it?" He said, "Yes." Because you have to always incite change. And that's what agitate means. It doesn't mean to get on somebody's nerve. That's a very minuscule and minor definition of the word agitate. Agitate means to get in there and incite change, because if you do not, nothing's going to change. And that is very bad news for many different demographics in this country and in this world. You have to change. I started with me. I was in a space where, like, how did I get here? Why do I feel this way? What are the dynamics that made me me? And I love what Marie Osmond said when she said that we spend the last half of our lives fixing all the drama from the first half. And we all know, if we're going to be honest, that's true. Everybody has had drama of some kind. Everybody's had their heart broken. We have to learn how to. One of the workshops that I teach is the stages of grief and the different types of losses. One of the losses, as I was learning this, that was very interesting to me, is called an intrapsychic loss. The intrapsychic loss is a loss of a dream. When we see these professional athletes get injured and they can't perform anymore, and so they start doing drugs or they start beating their wives or whatever, they start negative behavior, it's because nobody's teaching them that this is a loss that has to be grieved. When we think of loss, we always think of death. There are several types of losses and they all overlap, because not only did this professional ball player or whatever, track athlete, lose their lifestyle, they lost the group, they lost the money, they lost that social aspect, and in many cases, they lost that respect. Because as we know, people are fair weather friends. I want to be your wife because you have all this money. If you didn't have this money, I have absolutely no attraction to you whatsoever. And people know that, right? So those things are lost. The wife leaves, or sometimes the husband, because the woman could be the one in that position making the money and being the professional athlete. And so when these losses aren't grieved, they manifest themselves in very horrible ways. And that's why we see a lot of what we see. But when you stop and say, wait a minute, who am I? How can I change? Because you can't help somebody else when you don't know how. And I think you should be your first student. You should be your own first student. And so that's what I was. I started going to work on who, because I had a I had a lot of things I had to work through. And every book that you could think of that could help me, every class I could take, every certification I could get, I did it because I was desperate to heal. And it's a constant. You never arrive. You just keep going to that next level, and then you get triggered, and you back down here, and you got to come up again. Then you get triggered, and people need to know so they're not so hard on themselves. Because I was very hard on myself about not being better. And then I learned how, and then I have a responsibility to teach others what I've learned.
Speaking of that, looking at that wall there behind you, can you tell us about your educational background, including any significant degrees or certifications that have really helped shape your career?
Well, I want to start off when I think about my education with a fun fact. I have two high school diplomas. I literally went to two schools every day simply because I wanted to go to this school because all my friends were there and my family. And I wanted to go to this school because they had the best track team in the city. And I ran track. So I literally have two high school diplomas. I sat in this class, took this test, got on the bus, went over here and took this test. Um, when I was doing it, it felt very normal to me because I was just one of them people. I just wake up in the morning and be like, okay, I'm getting ready to go over here and I'm going to transfer to this other school. And I was able to do that. Um, uh, and I'm fascinated myself that I got away with that after now that I'm an adult and I look back at this story. I was just talking about that story to some friends tonight. And, it was just really absolutely amazing that I was able to do that. And then I didn't want any parts of school anymore. So, in spite of having track and field scholarships to college, I decided to go into the Marine Corps because I was very, very clear that I needed some discipline, period. And I was also very, very clear that I needed to get away from my surroundings, like when God told Abraham, get out from among your people. Because once people see you in a certain light, it's hard to change their perspective about you. And when people have you pigeonholed into a certain behavior or a certain thought process, they're not letting you out. And you're thinking they're not letting you out because of who you are. They're not letting you out because of who they are. They need you to stay there. There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese, and it's about how people want other people to be in certain places for their benefit. And so they can feel better. Because if you're downtrodden, and I'm hanging around you, I can feel important and superior. It's like the C students feels great when they're in the classroom or in the environment with a bunch of F students. But then when the A student walks into the classroom, the C students is now agitated by, now that's that form of the word agitate, are agitated by this A student. And so I didn't want to go to school anymore. I went into the Marines because I understood what I needed. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I hid it from everybody because I knew full well that my mother, and she still talks about this day about me doing that. I kind of snuck into the Marines. And once Uncle Sam had a hold of me, I knew they couldn't stop it. So once I was all signed up, ready to go, and it was time to leave, that's when I started telling that I was in the Marines. And of course, my mother still did try to stop it, but now she's very proud of the fact that I was a Marine. After I left the Marine Corps, I went to, well, I came not in a good place. That's a whole nother story. We'll be here all night. And I went to the Washington School for Secretary, and I graduated valedictorian from the Washington School for Secretaries. And I was going through so much to get through that school till it was ridiculous. I had no food to eat. My clothes came from the Goodwill. I was over in the corner crying at lunchtime all the time because I didn't have anything to eat. I didn't have any money. I used to sneak on the back of the bus. Well, basically, I snuck on the front of the bus, and to get where I had to go because I didn't have any money. And I used to walk through the Giant. Sorry, Giant. But I used to walk through the Giant and just eat the fruit, drink stuff, just walk through the store and eat. And that's how I ate. Like I was literally homeless. I didn't want to get too far into that story, but I'm talking about homeless to where I am living in or sleeping in gas stations and locking the door so nobody bothers me. I'm talking about the homeless where I'm spending the night in a tree. And this is when I recalled my understanding that there had to be something supernatural going on to hold me in that tree. And so after that, I wind up working at Howard University, and then I wind up working in Gary Hart's office in the United States Senate. So I went from being homeless to working in Congress. So I know there's a God because no man did that. Well, we always help along the way, but you know what I mean. Um, while I was at Gary Hart's office, I was his legislative secretary, and I began to do some other work, and I wanted that promotion. And they told me that I can't get that promotion because I don't have a college degree. And in that moment, I said, nobody will ever say that to me again. And I packed my two small children up, 4 and 5 years old, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I went to Spelman College. While I was at Spelman, I had a debilitating car accident. They told me I was never going to walk again. And it started off part-time because I had a full-time job at AT&T. So in the midst of all that, I'm going to Spelman. So this was difficult. Um, and so it took me 11 years. I was over there longer than Dr. Cole. She was the president of Spelman, and she was there 10 years. I was 11. And I was her last presidential scholar, meaning I got the last leave for a Spelman student to go to Emory University School of Law on a full tuition scholarship. And I received that scholarship. So after Spelman, I went straight into law school. And so while I was in Spelman, I went to the School of Ministry. So the School of Ministry and Office Administration at the WSS were my two associate's degrees. And then Spelman was my bachelor's degree. And then Emory was my doctorate of jurisprudence. And then maybe about 5 years after that, I went to seminary, to ITC, where I also graduated valedictorian. And so that's degree number 5. And then I moved out to Las Vegas to teach, and I went to UNLV and got a master of education. So that was the 6th degree. I always believed in really knowing what you're doing. You have people in professions who never really got trained in it, and some of them are still excellent at it. But for me, I wanted to know the academics of everything that I had to do. So when I knew God had called me into the pulpit, which I never saw coming or wanted to do, but the gifts and callings of God are without repentance. And the word says that we are called before we are even formed in our mother's womb. And so those things were already in place for me. And it explained my tumultuous childhood after I began to understand spiritual things. So the degrees understand a whole lot more about who I am because I pretty much spent my whole life in school. And I wanted to do that. I enjoyed it. I love learning. Uh, I asked a couple of friends because I'm always wanting to hear from the outside in, and I asked them to give me 3 adjectives that they would have to describe me, and it was very very interesting because we see ourselves one way, and then other people are seeing us another, and I understand that. So I wanted to know what some of the closest people to me and people who knew me for a long time thought of me. Would give me 3 adjectives. And one of them said, "You're a philomath." I did not know what that was. And she said, I had to do some research to figure out how to describe you. And because just your love for learning, and that's what a philomath is, a lover of learning. And so I learned that word through my friend who was looking for a word to describe me. And that definitely describes me because what you see on the wall is not all of it. It's not all of it. I have all my degrees back here. I am sworn into the United States Supreme Court, which I'm very, very excited about. Um, that's back there. I was ordained by two different ministers. Those are back there. The letter where I got the full tuition scholarship into Emory, that is on the wall. I received, what did we call it? The Heart of Education Award for when I was in Vegas. I did a lot of changing of my students. And if you look on my website, which is deborahborges.com, and you hit the impact page, you'll see a lot of testimonials from the youth, because that's where my heart is. My heart is also in changing these businesses, because people are really miserable on their jobs because people don't know how to treat them. Nobody wants to get up and go to work miserable. And because you have broken people, every life is a series of relationships. Everybody's in relationship with everybody. It can't be escaped. So when you go to work, you're in relationship with these people, and they're treating you like dirt. Things need to happen. We need to stop believing God that we need to stop believing God that He's got. I walked off several jobs with no money, nothing in place, with two small children, understanding that. And I'm not telling everybody to do this. I'm telling you what I did and where I am, because I'm don't say I told you to leave your job and then now you out in the streets, so now you got to come live with me. That ain't what I'm saying. I'm saying what I I'm saying what I did, because I cannot get up every morning and go be harassed, because my personality is not going to allow that. I'm going to confront you and deal with you. You're not going to like how I'm standing up to you, so you're going to fire me. So I might as well go on and leave. That's how I felt. And I have always been taken care of all of my life when I made those decisions. But other people can't walk in somebody else's faith. I have a lot of who's who among college and university students. I have outstanding students of America, outstanding woman of America. When I was at Emory Law, I received the Trial Lawyers Award for being the best trial lawyer in my class, and those things are back here on the wall. I was very excited about that. I'm not even a lawyer yet, and I'm considered to be a very, very strong trial attorney. So that was a huge compliment. And from what I know and understand, I was the first African American male or female to ever receive that award at Emory. So because when I do something, I put everything I have in it. I get very focused. I get tunnel vision. I get serious. I try to eliminate distractions. That's agitating to some people, because when you exercise certain characteristics that are not so common, or somebody wishes they had, unfortunately, people start to take that out on you as if who you are is some sort of personal attack against them. I have never ceased to be amazed by that. But it never stops me from doing what I have to do, and it never stops me from wanting to help people. So yeah, there's a lot going on back there on that wall. I can't think of all of it, but that's basically everything I've ever done, all my degrees and awards and everything. Well, most of them. There's a lot that's not up there because it's just no more room.
No room unless you get a bigger, you have to get a bigger wall.
Well, I have space down here. I could actually pick up my computer and show you what I have on my other wall, because
Okay.
I have to surround myself, and I'm going to do exactly that. I have to surround myself with motivation, because I've learned the hard way that I really have to motivate myself. So when you look back here, I'm not sure how clear this is. So you can see attitude, perseverance, character, success, confidence. What else I
Strength.
got back
Strength
here?
is behind you, I
Strength.
believe.
Yep. All of this stuff. Why? Because I understand how important all of this is. And so this wall is important to me as well. Then we have this wall where I have my heroes. These are, I tell people all the time, I love Martin and I want to be Martin. And I think Martin had some very, very serious qualities that I pray that I have. But I also am Malcolm. I am going to get into the fight. I am going to agitate. And so here we have Frederick Douglass, who uh, I got that from. We must agitate. And we are not going to have a wall without President Barack Obama. Amen.
All right.
Amen. So this is why I don't have a lot. It's just I have here. Can you see RBG? This is when I got
Yes.
sworn into the U.S. Supreme Court. So I was privileged to have lunch with RBG, and as you can see, Clarence Thomas. And I have this picture, one of my favorite. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a picture of a lady reading with a book, because that's me. I'm always having a book in my face. This is Gary Hart. When I said I worked up at the Senate in Congress, this is me outside of Gary Hart's office at the Russell Building in Congress. And this is me as an 18-year-old Marine.
Okay.
So and this is the banner that I had when I had my church, Works of Christ Ministries. Not sure how well
Yes, we
that's
could
coming
do it.
out in the view. But so I surround myself with these things because I understand the significance of self-motivation. Because if you wait on somebody else to do it, especially in this climate, this dog eat dog, every man for himself and all of that, and you sitting there waiting for somebody to call and pump you up, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. But tell me a little. I want to get
And
into.
on the other hand, I am that person who wants to do that for other people. Can't hear. I think you're frozen.
Am I frozen
Well, I
or?
know you're frozen. Okay, I hear you and you're moving
Okay.
again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how did your progress in your career lead you to become a certified speaker, a life coach, and a trainer with John Maxwell, with the John Maxwell team?
Well, when I decided to do that, I treated that there's not a degree like in that, right? So when I decided that I needed to take all these different things that I've done and combine them into another area where I can reach a broader group of a broader demographic and not be uh, suppressed by others, um, because people feel empowered by controlling and diminishing other people, which is a serious pet peeve of mine. So that's something I fight through all the time because I'm just not having it. And so uh, I want to learn my craft. You're not going to be a lawyer and you don't go to law school and read some books. So there's no real like school to go to for that. So I started doing some research about who was successful in that area. And I looked at a lot of different people, and I found John Maxwell and his program to be something that I could use and benefit from. And because he has several lanes, you can go down the lane of a speaker, you can go down the lane of a coach, you can go down the lane of a trainer. Me being me, I went down all lanes because all of those speakers to me. I think they're very. I mean, I have always been very loquacious, talkative, because I always have something to say because I've seen so much, and but not about everything, but I'm talking about the things that I know about. If I don't know about something, I will be very quiet and I'm listening and I'm learning. But when I get very passionate, excited about something, and that's the conversation that comes up, yeah, I can get very deeply involved in that. So I don't know how you coach. And if you notice, all of my professions, I have to talk. Teachers have to talk, lawyers have to talk, pastors have to talk, coaches have to talk, trainers have to talk. So that's my gift. And people had always told me I talk too much. And I used to feel bad about it and try really hard to shut up. But I understood that this was my gift from God. I'm not saying things that I don't know what I'm talking about, which I'm trying not to talk about how the disturbing things that I'm seeing in the pulpit. It is literally the other day I was just in here crying. It's like it's gotten that bad. It's just a total disrespect of God and the church, and it's I've seen the power of God in ways that I can't even tell people because they're not going to understand. And then you're going to be a problem. I noticed that every time people see somebody that has a gift that they don't, they want to know why you, or who do you think you are, or why would God give that to you and not me? I don't know. I was just as shocked as everybody else when I was called by God. I think I was more shocked. In fact, the pastor who told me I had a call in my life and I was called by God, I had no idea what that even meant. And I was very adamant that he must be talking to somebody else. Because as we came in the door, it was a bunch of us, and he just called me out the first day I ever walked into church and said, "You have a call in your life, and I need to help you learn to hone that because you're a teacher and all these things." And I'm looking at him like, and he said, "You?" And I said, "No, I'm 100% positive that you're not talking about me." But as it turns out, God really has anointed my life. And I'm a woman. I'm not going there yet, but I'm going there on my own show. Um, this foolishness about women can't preach, really, and women aren't anointed, really. Um, the man should teach the woman the Bible. The man don't know the Bible. How you gonna teach me something you don't know? Go learn the Bible, and then talk to me about teaching me. I'm not getting ready to get on that horse because I'm not gonna get off. Um, no, no, but
I do
seriously,
understand what you're saying, though, because I'm a preacher's kid, so I've been through and down that path many times.
but anyway, that's for another
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
That requires some very serious time and some very serious teaching. For every scripture you have saying that I'm not supposed to preach or that I'm not anointed, I got 5 to say I am. And the most important thing that I have is experience with it. So I'm gonna leave that right there.
But there's a book of Esther, though, isn't there? I mean, some people do read that, don't they?
I don't think people don't read the Bible. People don't read the Bible. I literally had a gentleman uh, bet me money, which I thought was absolutely curious. I was talking to him about something in the book of Ephesians, and he said there's no such book as Ephesians.
Okay.
And like literally bet me $20. And I'm confused because like where would I get that from? I'm not walking around thinking about Ephesus. I don't know that there's a place called Ephesus until I read the Bible. And so, what is the book of Ephesians? It's just like people from Washington are called Washingtonians. People from Ephesus are called Ephesians. That's why the book is named Ephesians. And for my money, it's one of the most powerful books in the Bible. And he's betting me that it doesn't exist. I had a gentleman wanted to take me out. I said, "What's your relationship with God?" "Oh, I have a deep relationship with God. I have a good relationship with God." I said, "Do you know the biblical text?" "The what?" "The biblical text." Oh, what do you mean?" The Bible. Do you know the Bible? Um, yeah, I know the Bible. Of course, I know the Bible. I said, okay, give me one scripture. One. One. He couldn't. From Genesis to Revelations, you can't think of anything. You can't say the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd Psalm. I was talking to some of my friends about this tonight, and they was like, well, did he say Jesus wept? You know, that's a whole sentence and a whole paragraph by itself in the Bible, but in zero. And the reason why I ask these questions of people is because I understand spiritual things. And if you don't have any knowledge of that Bible, then you're going to begin to come against me. And I know that, and I've seen it over and over again. And if you're not stable spiritually, then you're unstable spiritually. You're going to resent me because I'm a woman. You're going to be used by the enemy to hurt me. I've seen this pattern over and over, and you can see the pattern in the Bible. It demonstrates it, and I've lived it. So you can't keep making the same exact mistakes over and over again when you know better. And sometimes loneliness, you know, one of the greatest human desires is to belong. Um, and so those things cause us to enter into wrong relationships and to stay. The one thing that I love about me is I might enter into it. I might enter into it thinking you're the one, thinking that you love me, thinking that I love you, because I'm lonely, because I'm, you know, I just need I need a hug, you know, something, whatever the reason is. But once I realize that this is off, I'm out. I have never been pressed to be with a man, and I think these women who are pressed to be with a man are and they're allowing just whatever kind of behavior. That's a self-esteem issue. You know, you don't let somebody. I literally had a client, this is a true story, this is recent, 56 years old, female, and she says to me, Attorney Borges, my husband has pulled a gun on me for the third time. Third? You're there after the first time? And then the second time? I'm scared this woman's going to get murdered. He could have pulled the trigger by accident. He's putting the gun to her head, and she won't leave. I'm scared for her. I'm waiting on that phone call any day now because he beats her up, throws her down steps, chokes her, hangs her with belts. And I do understand. I do understand psychologically why people stay. I do, because I had to study it because of my major. And I get that, what's happening to the brain. So I'm not being hard on anyone, or nor am I being judgmental. I'm being compassionate and concerned, because that is not love. Another one of my favorite quotes is from the philosopher Paul Tillich. Paul Tillich said, love without justice is chaotic self-surrender. Chaotic, chaos. Self-surrender. I'm allowing you to do this. Love without justice. And I've had this pen. I don't know if you can see it. All for justice for all. I am so serious about fairness and justice. They asked me to teach class management to teachers when I was in Las Vegas, because I would be one of the only teachers in the whole school who you could walk in my classroom and you ain't see no bunch of foolishness. I ain't play
Yeah.
that. Sit down. I'm not getting up out my bed every morning to come here and to teach you, and you're not going to sit here and learn. But I did it in a respectful, loving, caring way, and they wanted to be in my class. Again, if you go to my impact page on my website, you'll see what they had to say about me, even calling me their black mother, the white kids. So I think that when we get into a space where we can truly be who we are going to impact those around us. If we are trying to be somebody else, people are always saying, be yourself, be yourself. And then when you be yourself, everybody gets mad.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do? You know what I mean? You can't worry about that. You just have to be
Yes,
yourself. So I'm authentically, I'm very proud of that.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I've tried to live as many of these 77 years as possible, trying to just be myself, no one else, just myself. Uh, can you tell me how you incorporate AIM into your coaching and your training sessions to help businesses and individuals to achieve their goals?
Well, the first thing, you have to know what their goals are. Um, Everybody needs to be moved out of their comfort zone. And that's the agitate. We need to be agitated. You know, they call that thing in the middle of the washing machine the agitator. That's the thing that's getting off all the dirt, right? So one of the things, and people get real uncomfortable with it and they don't want to hear it anymore. They don't like you. Don't ask me to help you if you're not willing to be agitated, because you have to be. It's not pretty. It can be painful, but having gone through it, I am on the other side of it, and it was worth it. It was worth every crying night. It was worth every broken relationship, male or female, family, friend, or foe. It was worth it, because this life is so short and it's so fleeting. And if we don't get a grip on why we're here and have the courage, Maya Angelou said, courage is the most important virtue because it takes courage to do the rest of them, right? It takes courage to love. It takes courage to agitate. It takes courage to innovate. And it takes courage to motivate, because you're going to be hated and ridiculed for trying to do something that nobody else wants to do, or that you don't want, or somebody doesn't want you to do it. And I'm not saying nobody else wants to do it. I'm just saying when you start agitating, you start aiming, right? There's going to be some resistance, because that's just natural. And it's okay for the resistance. That means you're in the process. That's what that really means. And so when you're agitating in the hope of prompting action, which is the definition of agitating, then you're going to be uncomfortable. I was just telling someone, uh, we have a track team, by the way. Excuse me. And we're a master's track team. And I'm excited to say that we run in the 60 and 64-year-old age group. And we went to the Penn Relays and won. Had to plug that in there, because that's motivating for a lot of people and inspiring for a lot of people, because they feel like once you hit a certain age, you can't run, you can't wear this, you can't go here, you can't do that. I can't let somebody, Martin Luther King said that he is not, he's clearly a conscientious objector, right? And we can't follow unjust laws. I feel the same way about rules. You can't follow unjust rules. Your rules were designed to keep me out. I can't follow that. This wall doesn't exist if I follow that, because you're not going to be this and you're a woman. You're not going to be that and you're black. You're not going to be this and you have kids. And you're not going to be that and you're divorced. And you're not going to be this if you're this. And these are all these rules set in place for other people to keep you subjected to them. And I recognize this and I refuse to follow those rules. And it causes a lot of, who she thinks she is. But I don't think about who I am. I'm very clear on who I am, because I made a point of knowing who I really am, not who you think I am or want me to be, but who I truly am, which first and foremost is a child of the living God. And once you tap into that and understand that God has your back, when people come for me, you know what I say? Come on. because I'm backed by a divine government that you can't penetrate nor whip. Your arms are too short to box with God. You can't penetrate that government. My government is God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. And when you come up against God, then I'm going to let you, what the Bible say, cast your cares upon me because I care for you. This battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. When you start really walking in those things, you get a courage, right? You get a sense of justice. Don't treat me unfairly and get mad at me because I'm calling you on it. Isn't that strange? People mistreat you, and when you won't let them, they're mad at you. Really? Okay, well, one of us gonna have to be mad, but I think it's gonna be you
I think so.
because I'm not gonna
I
let
think
you
so.
abuse me, so you can feel better. So that's the agitate, the innovate. Let's do something new. The motivate, encourage me. You know what? In my classroom, I used to lock the doors and I used to play music, and we'd be at the front of the classroom, line dancing, singing the Temptations, doing the salsa for the Mexican kids. The Indian kids would teach us their dances. I had all these, I had a melting pot, a huge melt. Scandinavians, everybody was in my class. And I had a day where I set aside for them to show everybody their culture so they could feel important, needed, wanted, understood, right? So people could stop bullying them and these kinds of things. And that's not in the curriculum. They don't want me doing that. I'm in the classroom with my heels and dress on, doing push-ups, betting the kids that I can do more push-ups than them. No, you can't. You old. Okay, come on, let's drop. I got your old. And I'm in my classroom doing stuff like that. And so once they get comfortable and we're having fun, now they want to learn from me because I'm relatable and I'm fair. I'm not going to tell this group of kids, you can't go to the restroom, but this group can. And that's happening all over this country in these school districts. You're treating one demographic this way and another demographic this way and wondering why you have chaos in your classroom. You know, we don't want that as adults, and you want children to uh,
Yeah.
understand and accept and know how to deal with that. So justice is very, very important and very, very huge in AIM. And so these are some of the things and some of the tools that I use to make impact.
Now, you spoke of being a teacher, and you bring up all these different examples of how you reached out to your students and how you actually became an influence on your students. But I see a very widening gap in the workforce here for our youngsters. There's an increasing number of students entering the workforce without basic tools like reading, writing, and math. How do you think this generation can survive in a technological jungle that we have created? Uh, to, just to give you an example, I have a nephew that has actually graduated high school, but he cannot read. He can get on the computer, he can play every game on the computer, but if I give him a book after the word and or the, he was lost. I had to get a comic book to teach him how to read because that's what he was interested in. And I think that's one of the things that is missing today is that we are becoming more of an institution and worried about the numbers that we are graduating rather than giving them the tools to succeed. Am I wrong here?
You are 100%. I believe this is why God had me in the classroom, because you don't really understand it. I certainly didn't until you're on the ground floor. This is a true story that I'm about to tell you. First of all, I'm teaching high school seniors English. Inherent in English is reading, writing, spelling, talking, speaking, all of that, right? They don't know how to read. And how did you get into 12th grade? And I started doing what? Agitating. Why? Because I'm literally having meetings with the principals like, excuse me, why can't my kids read? I was actually told not to, well, we all were told in an assembly of teachers being told, do not let, this is a true story, do not let your children, your students take books home. Don't give them homework. Keep in mind, this is my very first year in public schools teaching. I'm a lawyer, I'm a minister, I'm a chaplain. I taught in churches and in different things like that. And I was a tutor, but never in the public school. So this is, and I always wanted to. In fact, I wanted to be a teacher before I wanted to be a lawyer. But when I got a full scholarship to Emory, I mean, I kind of flipped that around. But I still always had that desire to teach. So an opportunity came that my daughter actually introduced me to, and I took it. And I moved to Las Vegas specifically to teach English. And I was sitting there like I was so like, what has happened to our school system? It's really was a disturbing shocker. These kids can't read, they can't write. I'm talking a whole page of words. There's not one comma, period, question mark, exclamation point. There's no semicolon. They didn't even know what a semicolon and a colon was. So I'm teaching them these things. And so, the apostrophe, I asked my students to, give me the name. I put all the different characters on the board and they had to name them all, right? These kids told me that the apostrophe was an up top comma. I didn't just, I couldn't have made it. They said this is an up top comma. And I said, what? Like, I'm so done right now. You did not just call this an up top comma. And they were dead serious. So
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
meet principal. So they're having a meeting saying, telling us, don't give the kids homework. And I'm like this because I'm like, what? Don't give the kids homework. Okay, homework is practice. You don't tell a football player, don't come to practice, we're gonna put you in the game. No sport. You don't tell a track athlete, I'm gonna put you in this 1600 meters, and you ain't got to come to practice and learn how to do it. I'm gonna throw you in this marathon, and you don't have to work your way up to it. You don't have to practice. Just get on out there. But you're gonna do that with education in the classroom? Like, where's the practice? Homework is strategic, and you're learning what you don't know. You're doing the homework. I don't know how to do this, so you make a note of that so you can ask the teacher. Right? They can't take home books. Why can't the kids take books home? Because they ain't gonna bring them back. What? We brought them back. Don't nobody want your books. These kids don't want these books. Half of them not even gonna take them home. You're not giving them the option. So I went back to my classes and I pulled a Joe Carter. Now, uh, from Lean on Me. He went back to, they calling y'all this, that. I couldn't say all of what he said. Joe Clark. I'm sorry, I said Joe Carter. Joe
Yes.
Clark. Um, um, and uh, I said, hey, they said y'all stupid. Y'all ain't gonna bring these books home. Y'all, I just told, right? And I was like, I tell y'all what, we gonna get them. We gonna show them how great you are and how smart you are and how brilliant you are. And I'm gonna give y'all a very serious, lengthy homework assignment, and y'all gonna do it. And y'all going to have 100% of this homework turned in. It was a Wednesday. I remember because I told them it's due Fridays. You got 2 days. And we having another meeting on Tuesday. And make me proud by allowing me the opportunity to walk into that meeting with your homework. Because according to them, you're not going to do it. What? They said that about us, miss. Okay, yeah, we're going to. Now, keep in mind, there's such a teacher shortage. I have classrooms with 52 students in it. No aid, no assistance, no nothing. And I had my classroom under control with all 52 of them. 38. I think 38 was my smallest class. Them kids came back to school with that homework. They rise to the level of our expectations. You expect nothing, you get nothing. I
Nothing.
expect this homework, I get homework. I expect for you to read. I had a kid want to fight me because I asked him to read. I said, dude, it's English. You read in English and don't jump over here because I'm not your average teacher. I had this. Hold on. I had this on my desk. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And I picked it up and I shared a friendly reminder don't do that, right? And you a kid, I ain't letting no kid beat me up. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm with an adult beat me up. I can't, right? So those kids brought in all that homework. And I was so proud to go back to that next meeting and hold up that homework. And then it was done well. And oh, with 80 exception, can you give me some books so I can let these kids take these books home? It was crazy. And the other craziest story is I got called into the principal's office, which was a leitmotif in my childhood. Um, anyway, and I was told to put children, going back to what you said about they're concerned about the numbers, to put students on my roll that I had never seen before in my life. And I said, no, why would I do that? We need our numbers up. Well, who are these kids? Excuse me. And where are these kids? Oh, they're in the detention centers. They're in this place, and this place. This is a crime, dude. Like, and I'm already a licensed active lawyer. Like, I'm not messing up my law. I'm licensed in 3 jurisdictions, four if you include the Supreme Court. And if you mess up in one of them, they take your license in all four of them. And you think that I'm about to jeopardize my life's work and the struggle that I went through to make this happen so you can get some money that you ain't getting ready to share with me. And I don't want it, even if you were going to share it with me. But the point I'm making is you're asking all these teachers to basically commit a crime so you can keep your job. And I said, I'm not doing that. In fact, I wrote a letter. I know I still have that letter around here somewhere because when I moved, I saw it. And I said the following: you could tell me what time to come to school. You could tell me what time school's out. You can tell me what curriculum I have to follow. You can tell me when my lunch hour is. You can tell me the rules about teaching. You can tell me the standards I have to meet. But what you cannot and will not do is control my integrity. And you're not going to control my future in the sense that I might wind up in jail. Or remember the teaching scandal in Atlanta?
Yes,
Well, why
ma'am.
do you think all of those teachers started cheating? Because you have told these teachers that if Johnny, who doesn't come to school, don't know how to read, don't know how to write, if Johnny doesn't come to school, you're fired.
Hey.
I have a mortgage. I have a car note. I have kids that have to eat. And my livelihood is dependent on some students who are on the road that I have never met and they're going to fail. And you're going to blame me? I used to put a triangle, a responsibility triangle on my blackboard in school. At the top of the triangle, I had the students because I'm teaching 12th graders. You're pregnant, you're doing drugs, you're selling drugs, you got guns, you're drinking, you're doing all this stuff. But now when it comes to your education, you helpless and you don't have no control over nothing, but you doing all the rest of the stuff. No, you are responsible. Who's second? Your parents. I can't come to your house and get you out of bed. I got 52 students in one classroom. I'm supposed to come to your house and wake you up every morning, all of y'all? And And then third, I put the teacher. I'm last in this scenario. I'm not first. And you're making me first. You're blaming me that your child doesn't come to school. You're blaming me that your child is on drugs and selling drugs at the school. You're blaming me because your child won't read, won't do homework. How are you blaming me? Well, you're supposed to motivate them. Well, how far does that go? When you help, I've always been a proponent of you can't help kids without helping the parents. Because I can do all the work I can at school and have my class sitting there picture perfect, and then they go home into a volatile environment, and now they just snap back into their pain, right? And I want to say this while we're on the subject of these kids. I have to say this because I'm so disturbed by this. We are always talking about this generation being bad, and these are different kind of kids, and we can't help them. I'm so disturbed by that because these kids are at the bottom of the totem pole. They don't have no money. They don't have no job. Tell me how. My daughter told me that her third grader brought alcohol to school. Now, which way? How old are you in the third grade? 8, and just all up in there tipsy, passing it around. Okay, the 8-year-old went to the liquor store. No, somebody in that house brought the liquor store. I mean, brought the liquor and the alcohol. Did not put some precautions in place for your child not to be able to access it. Brought it in a canister, like bring your water to drink all day. A third grader had alcohol in there. My neighbor teaches preschool. She said they came in and called her a bitch. I said, "What grade?" I said, "No way. What? What are you doing?"
See, Grandma didn't allow that. I mean, Grandpa could leave a glass of liquor on the counter or on the table, and I knew that I better not touch it. It didn't, and it wasn't out of fear; it was out of respect.
Hey, there it is. There is none. Okay, and then you're looking at the parents; they're downtrodden. I mean, I'm only shopping for me. I went to the grocery store and got about 3-4 bags of groceries, and it was $100-something. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? What? Like, people are getting desperate, and it's not starting with the darn kids. I did a church sermon a couple of months ago, and this is what I did at the church because I was talking about helping out children. That was my subject. So what I did, I held a baby in my arms, and I said, "So this is the baby, right? Sweetie pie. Nobody holds," this is Mickey because I don't have a real baby in here. Nobody has a baby and looks at that baby and says, "Oh, look at my little serial killer. Look at my little drug dealer. Oh, look at my sweet little rapist." You blaming this? Whose legs are longer? Whose arms are a little longer? Who's at the mercy of an adult? They don't have any money. They don't know how to drive. This third grader doesn't know how to go get a gun and alcohol. The adults are doing these things. I worked at a school. The bus driver told the child to sit down on the bus because if you don't sit down, I can't leave. The child wouldn't sit down. The bus driver can't leave. The bus driver starts reporting the issue, which is going through the proper protocol. Next thing I know, the mama and the daughter then beat up the bus driver, put her in the hospital, both of them in jail. How you gonna help your child when you helping her beat the lady up? So that's the problem. And then let's keep going up. You have the federal government, you have the state government, you have the local government, and you have the municipalities, and then you have the companies, and then you have the families. The children are at the bottom, and it's their fault. That really is disturbing me. So you're beating the crap out of your child. you don't even know whether your child is even in school or not. You could care less. You don't even know if your child is home. You could care less because you at the party, you drinking, you doing whatever. And I'm not necessarily, I ain't judging them either, because there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing. It's just keep getting passed out. People just said F it, And hey, we were talking today at dinner with some friends about the little, what was it, the 2-year-old walking the streets of LA at 4 a.m. in the morning? What? How is this happening? And then they started telling me about a story I didn't know about some lady went on a cruise and left her kid in the house and the child died because you wanted to go on a cruise. Like, what? So what has happened to her? People want to judge these women and say this and say that and say the other. Um, but at the end of the day, my question is, what has happened to them? You know what I mean? People look at their baby with promise. Oh, this is going to be, CEO. This is going to be so, my baby's going to be a lawyer, a doctor, Indian chief. I don't know, an Olympic athlete or a business owner, engineer, just all these different things. They don't look at them and think they're going to be something negative. So what happens to this innocence? I always say we are born innocent and beautiful, and then grown folks get a hold of us. We get raped, we get beat, we get lied on, we get told to shut up, we lose our voice, we don't get a hug, we don't, the parents not showing up for us in any kind of way. And this resentment builds. And my go to for all of my troubled students was, what's going on at home? Because nobody is coming to school acting like a fool and something's not going on at home. I'm sorry, including me. Okay. So, you know what I mean? So I was able to relate to these kids because I was one of them. And I understood what I wanted and what I needed. And I gave that to them, and it worked like a charm.
But uh, I want to ask you how you maintain balance in your personal growth. So, how do you maintain a work life balance uh, and still manage to uh, get all the work in that you need? In other words, how do you maintain a work life balance given the demanding nature of your work? And what activities do you practice, or what practices do you use to manage your personal growth and well being?
I do a lot of meditating. And I had to have a brain scan, and I went to a sleep clinic. And in both cases, they asked me, did I meditate a lot? And I thought that was very interesting because I have OD on meditation because I have to control my thoughts. And I meditate on what it is that I desire. Meditation is a form of prayer. So a lot of prayer, but a lot of meditation in particular, and a lot of worshiping God. Worship is the greatest form of prayer. The only prayer people seem to engage in is the gimme, the petition. God, I need, God, I have, not understanding that if you do the other ones, you know, God already knows what you need. But my God shall supply all my need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. So God knows what you want before you even ask for it. Um, he said to let your request be made known unto him. However, that's not the only way we should be communicating with God. So God is at the center, period. I know that is what saved my life. So that's never going to change. I don't care how crazy it looks. I have my moments with God. Like, hey, God, really? But I have my moments. We have our talks. But for the most part, I understand I can't turn on a God that I need to get me out of this. You know what I mean? So we're mad at God. We can't be mad at God. We need God, right? Okay, God, talk to me. And then you see the blessing in the storm. You know what I mean? You see the lessons, you see why it had to happen this way. But while you're in it, you're not seeing anything. You're blind because to pain. And so God's at the center. The other thing that I do is I make sure I've always stayed physically active. I started a track team when I got back home. Like I said, we practice, we stay in shape, we're traveling. Right now, we're working on going to the USA Championships in Sacramento, California, and the World Championships in Sweden. And like I said, we went to the pin relays, did a good job, and we're just just staying fit because it helps not only physically but mentally. And we're not in any, we don't have gout and diabetes and high blood pressure, low blood pressure, this, that, and the other. I don't have any of that. I thank God every day. And I believe one of the reasons is because I meditate over my organs every single day. I meditate. I call the big three: your brain, your heart, and your lungs. When those three shut down, you're out of here. So that's always at the forefront of my prayer, for God to keep my mind, my heart, my lungs, and keep them operating at 100%. That's just an automatic prayer coming out my brain all the time. And then I go through the whole body, every organ, tissue, the skin cell, memory cell, blood cell, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the gallbladder, the liver, everything, the esophagus, the spine. I literally go through my entire body, praying over the muscles, the bones, the ligaments, the tendons. Um, and does that mean I'm always in perfect health and I'm never hurting? That's absolutely not what that means. I'm hurting right now, as a matter of fact. But I'm not going to stop praying over those things. So that's first and foremost. Then I learned to work at identifying people who actually love me versus people who are jealous of me or people who want to be around to hurt me. Um, those things bring so many tears that you get to a point where you're giving somebody else control over your emotions, and when you learn that, you let them go. You're not even worth me being mad at you. Like, I'm not even mad at you because you don't even rank like that to get that kind of emotion from me. So I think that when we really put ourselves first and choose us, then a lot of the drama, because when you think about it, most of our drama and pain is coming from outside sources. It's coming from other people,
Yes.
and when somebody knows your weakness, they knows there's something that hurts you. So now that they know that, they're going to do that. You have to immediately say, this person is not my friend. This person doesn't love me. If you know I want you to do X, and so therefore, from here on out, you're never going to do X, what does that mean? That means you don't love me and you are trying to hurt me. People ask questions to find out your buttons, to find out your weaknesses, or they find them out just from you running your mouth, right?
Very true. Very true.
And then they use it. So another way that I stay healthy and in balance is stop trying to focus on who you want people to be and focus on who they are, and let them off the hook. Let them go live their life and you go live yours. Leave them alone. I do put the effort in up front, but when I see that my energy is in vain, then I mean, I have to put me first and let them go be them, and understand that they were just supposed to be in my life for a season. And that's a hard lesson for a lot of us to learn. It's like, oh, they did this for me when we were little, or they were this, and you want to hold on to them because of what they did 20, 30, 40 years ago. And what have they done now? Hurt you over and over and over again. And then you want to hold on to that. and you still holding on to them because you're thinking about the past. So when the Bible tells us to forget those things which are behind and reach for those things which are before as we press toward the mark of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus, that is some serious advice that we need to take. And it's not even advice, it's scripture. And you know, we don't live the Bible verbatim because we can't. It's impossible. When I hear people say that, I was like, really, I'm gonna need you to put your common sense hat on. But you know, common sense ain't common no more. I probably never was. Because you are not riding anywhere on a donkey. And Jesus and the apostles wasn't riding in Benzes. We don't live. I went to Israel. I was over there for 3 weeks. And I walked through the Bible. And a lot of it began to make sense that you just cannot make sense of from just reading the book, because your brain is going to relate to it from your understanding and your life. You can't relate to how these people lived. I mean, it was just how you can't. Women, the Bible says that when women come on their cycle, they're supposed to go out to the barn and stay. So for everybody who says, oh, I do everything the Bible says, so if it's in the Bible, I do it. Really? I never had a barn. Where am I going? I can't go to the barn. There's no barn. Everybody had a barn back then. We don't have a barn. I never lived where we had a barn. And so you say, okay, well, go out to the shed. We didn't have a shed. Where am I going? And I got to stay there. So I can't go to work, can't come back in the house, can't be around the kids. They actually did that. Most people don't know that because most people are not reading the Bible. But so when somebody says that, it's just almost ridiculous because you can't, right? We're just not in, we're not in that space. So what we are to do with the biblical text is to learn its principles. You understand? You learn the principles. You can't follow the red letter law, as we would call it in the
Right.
legal terms, but you follow the principles. And you know, people go to prison and you're gonna pray and the guard's gonna open the door and you coming on out. Okay, well, hey, you're gonna take some real serious prayer for that to happen in 2024.
Yeah.
But back then we were living in different times, different people. And also to that woman question, those men were serious men of the Bible and of God. You can't be a crack addict and say, I got to submit to you because you're a crack addict who's a man. I'm going to need somebody to stop the foolishness. That's absolute madness. And I'm supposed to follow that just strictly because of your gender. You ain't picked up a Bible, read a Bible, because when the Bible is talking about that, they're talking about teaching spiritual things. I can't wait on you to teach me what you don't know. So now the kids can't learn but the Bible because the mama can't say nothing because she a woman.
Yeah.
Stop. Please. Stop. Anyway, I digress. But that's how I maintain my balance. Like if you keep your spiritual life, your physical life, and your social life in a certain place, and you know, when you start doing that, it can be isolating, but then you find power in the isolation. What is beautiful to me is that if people knew that their negative behavior was causing you to grow and to be positive and accomplish even more, they wouldn't do it because that's not the goal.
Right.
The goal of the negative behavior is to stop you. But some of us are energized by that. And I'm one of those some. When you harm me and you hurt me and you come for me, I'm going to turn that into some very serious power and determination and perseverance and commitment and diligence. And then that's what carries me through to the next place in my life. And I think teaching that through AIM, through agitating, innovating, and motivating, teaching that alone is a game changer. That alone. because we all know somebody who's being mistreated and they're allowing it for the sake of, I don't want them to leave my life. Well, why not?
Yeah.
Destroying your life. That, Jesus said, if you're not for me, you're against me. And if you're hurting me, you're not for me. Therefore, you are against me. And if you are against me, what's wrong with me that I keep staying over here with you? Male, female, family, friend, or foe. Same applies.
Yes, ma'am. I wholeheartedly agree. Um, I know I promised you a short interview, and we went way past that. But uh, to kind of wind it down, what are some of your goals for the future, both professionally and personally? And are there any upcoming projects or initiatives that you're excited about?
I'm working to get in the public schools. I really believe in going back to your roots, and I'm back at my roots, and that is where I want to affect change. I think my heart is with the kids and the school systems and the families, because I see what's going on with these single parents. I was one of them for a while, and that's where my heart is. My heart is also to go into these corporations and to help them give their employees a better quality of life, because a lot of people spend more time at work than at home. And if you're miserable at work, then that's a huge issue. So I would like to come in and do some work with the corporations and the schools, and just do workshops in general on the different things that I have listed on my website, which is deborah.borges.com. And my email, there's a contact page there where if you want to contact me to do some workshops, or to come in to your business, or to have some one-on-ones, you can put my email is inspiration at deborah.borges.com. So I'm at inspiration at Deborah A. Borges. And just leave a message and we'll talk and we'll start coordinating some things. Um, I really know the impact I've already made. That's why on my website, my page is not called testimonials, it's called impact. Because the impact, the testimonials of my impact. And I have young adults, children, and adults saying the impact that I've had on their lives. And so my work, the Bible says you'll be known by the fruit that you bear. And I have helped a lot of people. And I want to continue to do that on that next level.
Well, that sounds very impactful, and the words that you've said tonight are very inspirational, I'm sure, to a lot of people. Uh, the one aspect that I would like to talk a little bit more about before we let you go, you said that you'd like to do workshops and make more of an impact. Do you believe that the current curriculum of our high schools actually prepares students to come out and be able to fit into a corporate world or feasible employment? Here in California, we already have McDonald's that are fully automated. Where are we going to teach the kids that? Where are we going to get the kids to teach them these skills? I mean, the the days of the manual labor are practically over. But yet and still, we have taken the vocational elements out of schools. So what do we do with these students that are actually willing to go to work, but there is no place for them?
Well, the first part of your question is, do I believe that the current high school curriculum is preparing them? Absolutely not. They don't even know how to sign their names. I was just shocked. They've taken handwriting out of the schools. They're passing them when they can't read. You can't put me in a particular job and I cannot read. You have to do manual labor at that point, the blue collar versus the white collar worker. Um, and like you said, a lot of those jobs are going away. You go into the stores and all you see is the self checkout, and then you have all these other lanes, and there's only one of them open, and nobody has those jobs. And then same with McDonald's and whatever else, these other starter jobs. I think it's going to have to come down to, now I will say this, a lot of the high schools do have, because I was surprised to find out that aviation is in one of the high schools out in Las Vegas. These kids can get a pilot's license before they can get a driver's license. And I thought that was like, what? Right? And I actually was a guest speaker at one of the high schools who has a pre-law program where they teach the kids how to be lawyers in the high school and then place them in law firms over the summer. And then those law firms help them get into law school. Well, you have to get your undergraduate before you can go to law school, and a lot of that landscape is changing. But basically, you have to go to undergrad and then law school. So they have a lot of these, and then the STEM schools. But the issue is you have to apply and get into these programs for that demographic who can't read, who has no support, who has nobody pushing them forward. That demographic is not even getting in these programs, even though they exist. So now we have to go to programs like ours. I found out one of my students was homeless, and I found a lot of programs, a lot of places that would take them in and help them finish high school. And so these programs exist. We have to, as we aid and assist these families, we have to have somewhere for them to go. We have to have somewhere for them to learn. We have to have somebody who's going to sit down and say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to read. I'm talking about outside of the public school. Because listen, you got these kids coming to school with guns, and they're doing it on purpose so school could be out. They don't want to go to school, so they'll come to school and make sure somebody know they have a gun or do something crazy. Pull the I was in one school and they kept setting the darn trash can on fire. Now I'm mad because I'm not trying to get caught up in a fire because you're setting the school on fire so that you can have to get out of class. They were doing this, and they were pulling fire alarms. They don't want to be in class. Didn't they say on the news, DC has some 70 to 75% truancy rate? That is incredibly ridiculous. 70% of the kids aren't going to school in the District of Columbia, where our government sits, our capital of the United States. Like, how disturbing is this? And then, I'm trying to figure out how to get into that and help. It's I know I could be of assistance in that area because I know how to reach these kids. And you can't do innovate. You can't do the old stuff. That's not working. If that was working, you wouldn't have 70% of your students out of school, and they're not the only ones. The absentee rate in the schools I was in was crazy, but the kids always came to my class. I had students that only came to my class and then they leave. And I'm telling them, you can't just come to my class. You need all of these classes to graduate. I was honored and humbled by the fact that my principals would ask me to teach the teachers class management and how to have a relationship with the kids because they saw it. One day, the assistant principal came to my classroom and started taking pictures. I said, why are you taking pictures of my students? He said, because nobody believes that these kids are in the classroom quiet and actually doing work. They've never done this in any class in any year, and they've been here 3 years. This is the first time ever. Nobody believed me, so I came and took the pictures. After that, they started wanting me to teach all these classes to the teachers. So that's something I would like to do here that I'm home, because you have to. These teachers mistreating these kids, and they do it. Racism is prolific, right? It's You're not going to be racist at home, and then you're not racist when you go to school because you're a teacher. And I saw some real racist things going on, in the way certain students were being treated. And I spoke up about that. Agitate. Had a teacher tell a young black kid that his name is too ethnic. So I'm gonna call you Tommy. That's a true story. And the black teacher who's telling me that this happened in her classroom and in her presence, I said, "What did you say?" He said, "I ain't say nothing. I just left." I said, "Therein lies the problem."
Yeah. I think it was a couple of years ago when they wouldn't let a kid in Texas graduate because he had braids in his hair.
So you see what I mean? That kind of craziness. And we're supposed to sit back and say, okay, that's what I'm talking about, an unjust law, an unjust rule, right? An unjust ordinance. All of them have to be addressed. You can't sit. If we're not going to help with that kind of stuff, who is? Who is? I mean, it just disturbs me that we're blaming the kids. Yeah, there's some, they know what they're doing, but they feel helpless. And I'm not excusing nobody, but you're taking the person who doesn't have a job, doesn't have any money, doesn't have any credit, can't go get a place. They're stuck. Children are stuck with the crazy. I got to tell the story because every time I think about crazy, I think about this woman. This woman was a 54-year-old Caucasian female, and somebody called me in to help her. Right, I'm in Atlanta, and when this happens, and somebody calls me in to help her, and I sit down with this woman, and they tell me, "I warn you, she's never told anybody her story. She refuses to tell anybody her story, but maybe you can get through to her." That lady started spilling it after about 10 minutes of sitting with me. She said, "I don't know why, but I trust you." I think she was just trusting a God in me. I really do, because I didn't say a whole lot to just get her trust. I just met her. Like, this was our first meeting. This woman told me that her parents, biological parents, started giving her drugs and alcohol when she was 3 so that they can molest her and rape her. Never put her in school. She's a sex object. It's like sex trafficking from your parents. And I'm talking about the mother and the father. This woman never, ever, ever got off drugs. She never, ever, ever finished school. The neighbors called the police and said, "I know it's a child in that house. Never seen the child come out. Never seen the child get on the school bus. Never seen the child in the car. Never seen the child, nothing. But I know it's a child in that house." And called the police. And that's how the story came open. That's how she wound up in the system. I was a chaplain in the jails and in one of the hospitals in Atlanta. And so this is how I meet this lady. And I mean, I'm trying not to bust out crying because I'm trying to help her. I don't need her feeling sorry for me because now I'm crying. One of the things you learn as a chaplain, because I ran screaming and crying when I saw my first dead baby, and they was like, you could, now they pat me up. And I'm the chaplain. It's like, you can't do that. So that was rough. I didn't last on that job because I couldn't keep seeing that. But I stayed a year, and after that, I couldn't. It was too much on the heart. So, but this lady's story was just overwhelming. Like, how could you birth a child and do that? And now they're looking at this lady, and all they see is a drug addict. And I said, "Why didn't you ever tell somebody your story?" She said, "Because people don't care." I said, "Well, why did you tell me?" She said, "I could tell that you care when I was listening to your Bible study." And she just told me all of this. And I'm sitting there, I couldn't even sleep that night. It was ridiculous. And then you want this woman to be a productive member of society. She doesn't even know how to socialize. You kept me locked up in this room, raping me. And giving her cocaine and heroin and alcohol. These are your biological parents. This is not some abusive step parent. This your mama and daddy together doing this to you. How do you fix that? You know what I mean? This is a lifetime of constant work. And I work with this lady a lot, and she was making some progress, but that's some deep stuff. And you think your story is crazy, and then you always hear somebody else with a worse one. That one right there, yeah, that's kind of at the top of my list
Yeah.
of unbelievable abuse.
Yeah. So, as soon as you think that there's crazy, you find out there's insanity. So,
Yep,
uh,
yeah, really. So those are the things that I like to do. I like to teach the word. I like to teach African American history. I like to teach self-esteem classes because a lot of people tolerating certain things. It's just a self-esteem issue, and they don't want to hear that, but it is. You letting somebody slap you around, cheat on you, give you STDs every other day, every other month, and don't have no job, ain't paying no. I literally had a client like that. I'm not even making that's coming straight from one of my clients. This guy's beating her up, raping her, got women in the house when she's home. This is her husband. This is not a boyfriend. And she talking about she don't know if she want to leave.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I understand the psychological. She ultimately did divorce him, and I was her attorney. Um, but yeah, I've seen a lot of things, and seeing all that makes me want to really spend the days that I have left helping people overcome that stuff because we're going to pass away, and these kids that's going through all this stuff, they're going to be running this country. They're going to be the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds. You know what I mean? And if we don't do something about it, it's already looking like this country's going to hell in a handbasket. Imagine what that's going to look like when that group that everybody has given up on is now running the schools, the businesses, the hospitals,
The
the
country.
homes, yeah, the bench. They're the judges. You know what I mean? And I got a whole bunch of crazy law stories, but we'll do that some other time. But
Yes. Yes.
the whole thing is that's what makes me want to do what I'm doing.
Well, it was a pleasure talking with you, and hopefully, we haven't bored you too much, and we can get you back on the program. Uh, we
Boy, who,
enjoyed
me?
that.
Well, yeah, I'm not bored.
Okay. Well, as I said, thank you so much for your time. We appreciated everything. I know I said it would be a short interview, but we once I get to talking, it's I guess I'm maybe one of your kindred because I like to talk also, but I also like to listen. So therefore, I would be glad to have you back on the show. I will be back in touch with you, and we look forward to having you back. And thank you for all the very useful information.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great night.
All right, you too.
Yes. So that was our guest for the evening, Miss Borges, and we're glad that you could join us here for another uh, podcast of the Diamond Factory. We look forward to talking to you again next Friday with another very exciting guest. Have a great night and a great weekend.